We're here in Florence talking about the timeless values of scouting. Stay tuned to Carolina People coming up next. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're in Florence at the Service Center for the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts. We're focused on many of the council's current activities, and this week we're visiting with many of its executive board members. Today we're visiting with Ed Saleeby Jr., the council president. Good morning, Ed. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Incredible opportunity this week to highlight some of the board members, to highlight so many of the activities going on throughout the PD Area Council. And obviously couldn't think of anyone better to kick off the week than the president of the council.
Well, thank you very
and the
much.
third term president.
Yes, I thought it was going to be 1 year, and it's turned into 3.
That is amazing, Ed. Has that ever happened before?
It has, but it's been a long, long time when there wasn't much help there. And people did it out of just pure necessity as opposed to wanting, and I'm honored, wanting somebody to do that many terms.
With all the things going on in your life as an active practitioner, as a lawyer, and the active role of in that profession, to think that you would have the time to give back this much time in a volunteer capacity to the PD Area Council is amazing. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Can we talk real quick about yourself? Are you originally from the area?
Born and raised in Hartsville. My mother was born and raised in Conway, and she and Dad met. She was a Coker College student, so when he got in law school, he'd come home on the weekends, and that's where they met. And yes, I was born and raised in Hartsville, and went to school through the Hartsville school system, and went to Surrett School, Porter-Gaud, down in Charleston for a few years, and came back my last year to graduate with my old buddies at Hartsville High. And then, of course, after that, I went to USC and then USC Law School.
How long have you practiced in Hartsville much of your life or your whole life?
We have an office, the main office is in Hartsville. I have an office here in Florence. But I practice all over the state and indeed go out of state, all the way up New York, Michigan, New Jersey, Florida,
right?
wherever the need be. And I enjoy that part of it, going into the different states for the different courts.
Oh, absolutely. How long have you been practicing, Ed?
25 years.
25 years.
25 years. Seems like yesterday.
That's amazing.
I got out of law school.
That's amazing. And you still have family here in the PD area?
I have, well, my wife, Donna, and my 3 children, son. He's Edward III. We nicknamed him Son. And Nathan and Caleb. And my mother. My father passed away this past July. We were lucky to have him for the time that we did. And so that core family. And of course, I have cousins and all in the Hartsville and Florence and Dillon area. The Saleebys came over and sort of settled this area, and a good number of Saleebys that I'm related to down at the beach.
There were quite a few, that's right.
Saleeby's not like a Smith or a Jones. If there's Saleeby, you're kin to us somewhere. Maybe 15th cousin, but you're kin.
Did you grow up in scouting, Ed?
I did. My mother was a den mother for a couple of years, and then I moved on into the Boy Scouts, which starts at grade 6, 5th or 6th grade, and I was in all through high school except for when I got sent off to prep school. Didn't want to go. It was a choice by my parents, and so I had to leave scouting during those 2 years. It didn't quite make equal. I was only about 3 merit badges away, but they didn't have that program down at Porter-Gaud, so I couldn't do scouting down there.
Ed, are any of your children involved in scouting?
My oldest boy, Edward III, we call him Son. He got his Eagle last year, and Nathan and Caleb, my 2 other children, took a hiatus to play tennis, but they're now getting back into scouting in the local troop in Hartsville. And son and Nathan, I was going to go, but I had to have back surgery, took a wonderful trip out to Camp Philmont. For any boy involved in scouting, I would suggest for them to do that. It's a wonderful experience.
And did you and son ever take any trips together, father, son, as Boy Scouts?
Yes, Greg, all the time, camping trips, fishing trips, kayaking trips. We have a sporting clays event, and I do that with all of my children, and it's a competition, and we do that, and it's just quality time, I believe, that a parent, and that's both mother and father, the more quality time you can spend with your children, and I believe it'll make better children and better adults out of them as they grow up.
And do you feel scouting had an impact on you as a youth that enabled you to be a better attorney?
I really do, because it taught me how to get along with different people. It also taught me how to and not just me, other scouts. It affects everybody differently to some extent, but a lot to the same. And you have different situations that come about, and it teaches teamwork, how to get along with different people. And it teaches, and there's a sense of competition between troops at Camp Coker, and teaches good sportsmanship. It gives you that competitive drive, and so there's just so many things that are basic that instill into your character as you're growing. Because I've got a theory, it's not my theory, somebody told me that if you can take a person and train them and instill good values into them when they're young, and up to say 16, 17, 18, they will more than likely grow up to be a good, productive citizen. I see in my practice of criminal law that when they get to be 24, 25 years old, it's a little late then, and it's much harder to change them around if they're not on the right path. So I think that scouting is enormously valuable for that type of thing, with morals and working hard and good work ethic.
Absolutely. And when you think about the legal profession, do you think through how the legal practice has changed over the 25 years since you've been practicing as?
Yes, it's changed immensely. It went from just before I got out of law school, the local bar association decided that when they wanted to have court and when they didn't want to have court, and they'd get together, and if they didn't want to have court, they didn't. And now we have court administration, which mandates court, and we have a much heavier caseload now amongst the state, and a lot more lawyers and a lot more lawsuits, and it's a much busier thing, and there are a lot more rules to follow. The state has modeled their procedural rules after the federal rules, and so it's more fast. It's more fast paced, and you really have to stay on top of things rather than being able to lay back and take it at an easier stride than in the old days.
And how are the programs set up between the council and the different communities within the council? How are those maintained and furthered?
Okay, well, like Jim Head will tell you, he and I meet an awful lot, and you have to have a goal and you have to have a vision, more visions, and I had a number of them. And before I agreed to be council president the first time, I stated several goals that I have. So it starts with the council president and the council exec, which Jim Head is, but then we have roundtable discussions with. We've got good quality board members, from doctors to lawyers to preachers, covering all aspects. Good civic, hard-working people, and we put together plans in the format. And then it gets down to your local committees that we have that deal with the different areas, and your district execs through schools or churches set up these different programs. Now the district execs are responsible for 3 counties or 4 counties. They have their own little areas, and that's what they do. They're the first link. And so there is a chain there that passes from up here down to there. And of course, as council president, I tell them all that they can beat me or call me. They don't have to. If they have a problem, they can, and they want to discuss, they can call me.
And I've heard you do that, Ed, before when we were either at the Florence Civic Center or back here, back in August, giving out your phone number saying, call me if there are any concerns, even talking to viewers. And that was a great commitment early on.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great commitment as council president to think of that commitment. Why do you think a viewer would want to encourage their son, grandson, or great-grandson to get involved with scouting, Ed?
Well, there is great. That's an excellent question, because we're in tougher times right now with moral decay. There's so many more temptations for children out there now with alcohol and you know, when I was growing up, I didn't even know what pot was. And then of course you got in harder drugs around then, and we didn't have to face all those problems, and with the peer pressure and everything. And so with a cohesive scout unit and continually meeting and stressing the legal issues of it and the moral issues and how it will affect your life, and if you get in trouble for doing this or get in trouble for doing that, and how it hurts you physically and whatnot, and you know, those demands are out there, and I think the scouts do a good job of meeting that. I have never in 25 years had to represent a scout, so not just an Eagle Scout, but somebody that's been involved for a couple of years in scouting, in anything seriously wrong. And I credit that to good family values and of course the good values and lessons they learned from scouting.
In 25 years, the PD Area Council's president has not had to defend any former scouts or scouts in any serious crimes. That's a big deal. Ed Saleeby, scouting means a lot to you and means a heck of a lot to our viewers. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you so much, Greg. Enjoyed it.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're in Florence at the Service Center for the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts. We're focused on the council activities and many of its executive board members, and we're visiting with Reverend David Surrett, the pastor at Wesley United Methodist Church and the district chair for the Great Northern District for the PD Area Council. Good morning, Reverend Surrett. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Greg. Good to be with you.
Incredible opportunity all week to highlight some of the executive board members who've just been with Ed Saleeby, the council president, to think about so many activities going on with the council this year and every year in the PD area. And to get you in to talk about much of what's going on in the Great Northern District. Sure wanted to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Can we talk real quick about yourself? Were you originally from the area?
I'm originally from Aiken in the western part of the state. I grew up there until I went off to seminary at Duke Divinity School. So,
oh, great. How long were you in Durham?
I was in Durham for 3 years. It was a great experience. I really enjoyed being there. It's a wonderful college and just a moving, inspiring experience to be there. So.
And you did your undergraduate training
at the University of South Carolina in Aiken.
Okay. Oh, okay, great. So you left. So you did stay at Aiken.
I did. Yeah, until I went off to seminary. So
when folks, for viewers who may not be familiar with that kind of the tenure track for ministers or for reverends, and this is 2 questions. What would be the difference? Is there a difference between a minister, a reverend, and a pastor?
Not in our denomination, there isn't. Okay. So most of our clergy have 4-year undergraduate degrees, and then they have 3-year seminary degree, like attorneys generally have.
And that is common within the Methodist Church?
It is. It is. That's the traditional track that most of us follow. So.
Yeah, that's a question I've always wondered, and I'm in the Presbyterian Church, and obviously we call him Reverend such and such, Reverend Wilkes in this instance. When we think about your duties at Wesley United Methodist, when did you join the church?
I've been there for almost 2 years, and we have a a fairly varied program, and folks from a lot of different walks of life, people who've been in Hartsville forever, people who are there through Sunoco and Coker College and some of the other businesses, CP&L, and other businesses there in town. So,
the church is located physically in Hartsville.
It's downtown, right across from Coker College. We've just gone through about $1.5 million expansion. It's our biggest building program in the history of the congregation, and we added a new fellowship hall, an elevator, an office suite, and kitchen, and it's just a really great addition to the physical plant of the church, I think. So
great, David. That's a big move. What about, do you have family here in the area?
My wife teaches at Hartsville High School. She's an academic coach and works with young people who need special attention and who have learning disabilities. She always had taught elementary school prior to that, but has taught high school since she's been there. And then we have 3 children, a son who's 16, who's a fairly new Eagle Scout last fall, and then our daughter in the middle is 11, and then our youngest son is 9. So who we call our bonus baby. He's our extra addition to the family.
Listen to that. It's great to have bonus babies. That's wonderful.
Yeah, he's a great child, wonderful child.
That is great. Where had you served prior to coming to Hartsville?
I was in Greenville, on the east side of Greenville, in Taylor's at Lee Road United Methodist Church, which is a suburban congregation, fairly different from Wesley, but we had a wonderful experience. We were there for 5 years, and we did a fair amount of renovation projects. They had done a building project before I got there, and then anything that was not built, we renovated while I was there. So I've done a good bit of building in the last few years. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
David, when did you get involved with the PD Area Council? Right after you arrived? Or?
Right after I arrived. I had a staff member who we had worked together in the upper part of the state, and so he knew I was coming here, and I told him that I would be relocating to the area. So I think the day I moved in, he came by my office.
Wow.
I was still at home unpacking and things like that.
So when he came by to talk about scouting, was that something you've been familiar with? Had you been in scouting as a youth?
Yes, I've been in scouting as a youth almost all my life, and I was an Eagle, the highest rank in Boy Scouting, and had been a state officer in the Order of the Arrow, the Honor Society in Scouting, and so from Cubs all the way up. So.
And when we talk about that, David, a lot of viewers may not be familiar with Boy Scouts, or folks who are tuning in this week trying to think about attaining the rank of Eagle. What exactly does that mean? How, if you can give the viewers a plot summary real quick of, I should have asked Ed that earlier since he's council president, but what does that mean exactly?
It includes, you earn a number of merit badges, about 21, on different career subjects, and everything from nature and the environment to swimming and sports, and now we have more contemporary merit badges on things like communications and computers, and family life is one of the required merit badges now. You also have to have advanced through the various ranks in scouting, which include other projects, advancements that you work on. And one of the other very important things about the Eagle is you have to do a major service project in your community or your church that involves leadership development and leadership skills. You're not expected to do all of the project yourself. In fact, part of it is the development of leadership and guiding others and involving them in the project as well as yourself. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
How do you think your scouting experience has helped you in your adult life, whether it's as a father or as a pastor, or how do you think it's helped you?
Oh, it's helped me in a lot of ways. I grew up in a fairly large downtown congregation, but scouting taught me a lot of organizational skills and program skills, how to develop leaders, how to work with volunteers, how to coordinate programs and activities and develop those. Some skills that you don't necessarily learn in the classroom in seminary, as enriching as that experience was to me. And it's been a wonderful activity for our children to be part of, too, a very I say it's a holistic kind of program because it includes athletics and citizenship and personal development, leadership development. It's just a good package, I think, for a young person to be involved in. So.
And you mentioned our children. Has your daughter had any interest possibly going into venturing, or was that something she's been thinking about?
Possibly. She's a junior Girl Scout now. She's gone all the way from daisies on up, and her mom is involved with them as well. They were at an activity at the beach this past weekend with their Girl Scout group, and so I wouldn't doubt that she would probably want to do that. She tries to keep up with her brothers fairly closely. But she's enjoyed her Girl Scouting experience tremendously, as well as the boys have also.
Absolutely. And you have you been out to Camp Coker, David?
Oh yes. I was there this weekend for a work project, in fact. So
is that right?
Yeah.
Now, do you go out there as the father of a scout, or do you go out there as a chairman's capacity over Great Northern District, or do you go out there in all those capacities?
All those capacities, yeah. Dad and as an officer and a lot of different areas in that way. So, and my older son works at a Boy Scout camp in the upper part of the state. He's worked there for one summer, and he'll be back there again this year, which he enjoys very much. So,
right. So this has really been a family commitment.
Yeah, it really has.
Has passed forward. Yeah. Has it enabled you to share scouting, for instance, with the church you were in outside of Taylor's, as well as now there in Hartsville? Have you been able to share scouting with the congregations, or are there so many other things you're involved in that it's how do you go about doing that? You're able to share that in what way?
Well, since I've been at Wesley, we have started both a Cub Scout pack and a Boy Scout troop. And in every congregation I've served in, I started in McClellanville in Charleston County about 20 years ago, a little fishing village that almost got wiped out by Hurricane Hugo after I was there. But in every community in which I've served, in every congregation, we've started a Boy Scout troop or a Cub Scout pack. In fact, I started a new congregation at Pawleys Island in the late 80s, and we started a Cub Scout pack before we even had a building. So that was one of our first programs that we got off the ground. So,
right. What region is served by the Great Northern District?
Great Northern District includes the counties of Darlington, Marlboro, and Chesterfield counties, Hartsville, Cheraw, Bennettsville, and some of the other communities that are included in those counties. That is my main role as being part of the executive board. We have to have membership activities. We make certain that we have units in as many communities as we can involve boys and young women in the venturing program. We make certain that those units have trained, qualified leaders who know what they're doing, know how to execute the Boy Scouting program. We also have another component as part of our district program that's raising the financial resources that are necessary for the scouting program in those communities. It takes about $100 or so to fund each youth in scouting, and we do not ask each youth for that much financial support.
Wow.
And then we also provide certain special activities and programs for them. Last weekend we had our district Pinewood Derby at my church, where our Cub Scouts make little wooden cars and race them, and they have a great time doing it. Although I think the dads have as much fun as the lads do doing it. So that's one activity that we sponsor. Probably about 6 different district-wide 3-county activities during the year.
Wow. Golly, David, I've got about 10 other questions I want to ask. We've got about a minute, but I wanted to get a couple out. Is there any challenges in particular, as you lay all that out, any particular challenge that you hope to overcome, not only this year, but any years going forward?
I guess probably the strongest challenge that we have to work on are the financial ones. And with the economy being soft like it is, and costs rising for all kinds of things like health care and insurance and things like that for staff and for our facilities, funding is one of the biggest issues we have to deal with. So But we feel positive about that this year. So we feel very positive about it. So.
If they could think through what their reverend would be doing at Wesley, your congregation wonders possibly what would David be doing if he wasn't leading us and helping share the Lord's message. Have you ever thought about possibly what you'd be doing if you weren't?
Well, I've always joked with my wife and say that when I get mad in the ministry, I'm going to go back to my hometown and buy the funeral home, but that's usually just a joke. That's not necessarily true. I don't know what I would do. When I was thinking about career or vocational choices, I kind of narrowed it down to either clergy, and I thought about going into professional Boy Scouting as well. So I don't know if I would do that or not, but I really can't imagine doing anything else. I enjoy the ministry. It's very fulfilling. It's very challenging. It requires a number of hours and time away from home, but I almost cannot imagine doing anything else but that. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Reverend David Surrett, the pastor at Wesley United Methodist Church in Hartsville, a man who would possibly be going into professional scouting if he was not committing his entire life to help bring folks to the Lord. David, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you much. Appreciate being with you as well. Really do.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank Jim Head and all the staff and volunteers of the Petey Area Council of the Boy Scouts for making this week of Carolina People such a great success.